What's that? One of my favorite artists of all time is using AI? Why? 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 So let's get into it. Everyone knows who RossDraws is, and everyone knows that he's like one of the art gods to many of us. I've been signed up previously for his Patreon. I've bought stuff from him. I know at least 4 people who took his courses to improve, and they have improved, by the way. Unfortunately, some stuff has come to light about him, and I guess we're going to go over it because this dude named Fen says that he's basically thinks himself as Kim Jong-gi. Please stop that. And I'll link the doc down below. So let's go over his business stuff. Now, we're going to look at a doc that was released by Fen, someone who worked for him. Let me get it up real quick. Now, when it comes to RossDraws as a business person, there is a lot to go over here, and I'm going to try to condense it as much as possible so you guys can just get straight to it. Now, from this first screenshot here, but this is my own opinion, that Ross kind of makes it a little bit weird by saying, were you expecting compensation? Like right here, says, were you expecting compensation for this one? Sorry for miscommunication. I had some volunteers come up. And I don't know. I feel like that's a weird way to word that because it seems, I don't know. It's weird. If he wants volunteers, I feel like he should be asking his fans. I'm sure that some of them will be willing to work in exchange for the art program that he actually offers. Based on what I see here, it does seem like he immediately jumps to preferring local free people to working with those who know his booth. And I think at this point, Fen should have been given money because it seems like from what this document says that basically Ross doesn't want to pay people. He offers money, and then when he offers money to people who he thinks that he wants to work with, right, that probably will refuse payment or there's probably something going on there. And then when someone he is familiar with wants to get paid, he will take away that opportunity in favor of someone local and free. And I understand that's using people a little bit, but I understand both sides, but I feel as if it's unrealistic to want someone who knows your booth and knows your product and knows your things and then not want to pay them. If you don't want to pay somebody, ask your fans, offer them your free course. That's what I would have done. And then he asks him to work, Ross asks Fen to work at AX 2024. And then when the mention of a payment comes up, he threatens to take the opportunity away. And right here in the screenshot, it says, I'll actually put it on screen. Whoa, hey, are you going to come back to Lightbox? Come to AX, help us. Yeah, I love being in LA, and it's nice to be surrounded by artists with the same amount of drive. I think Mav and Zach wants to come too. And when it says help us, he replies with, bro wants my free labor. He goes, will you house me again? He goes, yeah, sure. He goes, oh, okay, maybe, I'll let you know. Will you be willing to buy me a plane ticket? Well, then I can just pay somebody here. Okay, we can talk when it comes closer. See, like, that was an immediately taken away. Like, is this person someone you've known for a while? Someone who you've worked with for a while? We'll sketch. I think at this point that Fen should have definitely been given money, especially if he's working his booth. And an entire month, based on what he said, where he was supposed to go an entire month with no pay, just because he had a month vacation. Like, just because you're on vacation, it doesn't mean that it's not work. Yeah, just because it's fun work doesn't mean it's not work, okay? And Fen, don't let anyone take advantage of you for a whole month, and Ross should have known better. If you can't afford people, then move to a smaller house, Ross. Move to a less expensive state. How about we stop paying people with exposure, unless that exposure is going to be willingly giving them money? And have you put those people on your YouTube? That's exposure, not someone working at your booth. Make good on your promises, and to quote Fen, what he said here, if you're going to use your network as a way to avoid paying me, you can't just gatekeep that very same network. So basically he would be like, yeah, I can help you with your career, and then not actually do that. So he would gatekeep all of his contacts. And when it comes to conventions, it sounds like Ross just doesn't like them, and he avoids being at his booth so he can hang out with his friends and his fans. And I understand this, but maybe that you should be paying the people who are, sending your product out, who are being there as the face of your brand, because those people matter too. They do. Fen matters, the other person matters, they all matter. But I think the problem is that when he has to pay people, he's not getting the maximum amount of money from his prints and everything he sells. Because boy is charging like $30 for one print. Boy, get out of here. He was so mad that he didn't hit the right sales. Like, maybe you should put out new works. You can't just decide you're going to go to AX and bring your old shit with you. You have to have new shit. And the people that he was working with told him, hey, you should be doing this and use these prints. But instead, he was doing different stuff. He printed out different stuff, older stuff. And if you trust these people, then you should have listened to them in the first place. They clearly know your booth better than you do. And also, he's clearly been bad about that Kickstarter. There's no info on when that Nema statue is going to come out. It's like a phantom in the wind, but he keeps bringing it, apparently, to places so people can do a pre-order or pay for it in advance. Like, I feel like he doesn't know how he's going to get that statue created. And if and whenever it comes out, I mean, it's a statue. It should have been out. Honestly. Now, I also wanted to highlight the screenshots of another coworker's Instagram. Now, I'm going to read these straight because I feel like they need to be read out. So, this is from Min Doodley. First and foremost, I'd like to state that I personally don't think that Ross is an evil individual with a malicious intent. He can be a kind person who cares deeply about those around him, and I do not pray for his downfall, nor am I sharing the story to contribute to that. Rather, I hope that my experience serves as a warning to aspiring young artists who end up working for larger artists in the industry. This is true. This is probably true. But that being said, his business practices are unethical. Although Ross works extremely hard, he is also still very privileged to the point where he doesn't understand the importance of fair compensation for his team. In his Google Doc, Fenn talks about how he didn't get paid for working his first con with him, and he includes a screenshot where Ross assumed that he was volunteering. If anyone has worked a convention booth, they know how exhausting and laborious it is. It's basically sales with extra long hours. You're constantly on your feet generating sales and barely have any time to eat. Maybe it's just me not paying for someone's labor when they're literally making all the money for you. Seems like an advantageous move. Not to mention the power balance at play here, because younger fans are less willing to put up boundaries. When I first began working for Ross, I started at minimum wage. This was partially on me because I didn't negotiate pay, even though I was previously administrative experience. I was young, excited for the opportunity, and figured I could ask for a fair raise after proving myself. So I kept my head down and did the absolute best I could. It was basically akin to a startup environment, and his studio grew quickly, and the release of Nema and Patreon campaigns. As his only employee at the time, I quickly learned to wear many hats: personal assistant, executive assistant, con booth worker, e-commerce manager, order fulfillment, commercial customer service, Patreon co-host, video editor, graphic designer. The list goes on, and it was fun and insightful, but my stress grew as my workload increased. I bet she's the girl that talks in that one video that I purchased. When the time came, I did my research on how much exec assistants were getting paid, and keep in mind, I was living in Los Angeles. It was dumb of me at the time, but I actually had to dig into my savings to supplement this job. I even took on a brief sidekick, although it's a huge jump from my starting wage. I think I asked for something along the lines of $22 an hour because of all the work I was doing. He declined and raised me to $15. Oh my God. $15 in Los Angeles is nothing. That's nothing. So I continued to do all of that work for just $15 an hour, and by the end of my time there, I was only raised to $17 an hour, which was when he bought his house and saw a drastic increase of his business from his art boot camp, which was my idea. I saw all of this income stream, and I knew that I could be paid more. Not out of entitlement, but because my need to afford basic necessities like rent, groceries, had to vouch for the business assistant to be started at my current pay because he wanted to go lower. And in this economy, in SoCal, that's already pretty low for the kind of skills this niche job requires. On my last day, I actually showed him my budget and tried to explain for the last time the importance of paying his employees fairly. He took a quick look at the paper and said, "Wow, LA is really expensive. Are you going to stay here?" Motherfucker. That motherfucker. So out of touch. I'm saying that. That's not her. I'm saying that. Was I salty? Honestly, yes. I let myself get taken advantage of and devoted myself entirely to that job. I worked so hard and truly believed in the brand, especially seeing how many fans' hearts he touched. It was cool to be part of something larger than myself. To be transparent, he treated me to nice bougie dinners and gave me bonuses after cons and Christmas, but that didn't remove the struggle of living paycheck to paycheck. The dinners didn't pay my bills, and the bonuses would quickly disappear to buy groceries. I had a lot of moments, like the scene in Parasite, where the chauffeur dad is listening in on the mom's phone call. I felt our class differences, and it was weird because I was working for him. This is just one example I will share because I don't want the situation to snowball into a shitstorm, and it's scary for me to do so because I don't want to seem like an attack on his character or that I'm trying to use this for my own gain. It's just disappointing that he hasn't learned after all these years and continue to take advantage of young fans. The use of AI is upsetting as well. To be honest, I know not many people will see this, and the reality of people getting canceled is that the whole situation blows over after 3 business days because everyone just forgets. I just want this to serve as a warning for aspiring young artists and fans to be wary of entering the industry. Know your worth and stand up for yourself. I had a lot of good and bad moments on the job. Overall, I am grateful for the experience because it eventually taught me to value myself and my contributions, that I deserve more. After 1.5 years, I left to pursue my own path to becoming an artist. Good for you. Good for you. I'm going to follow you right after this. I remember on the job, he constantly made promises of helping me enter the industry. When I was working on my portfolio and finished it, he asked to see it both times, but never amounted to any feedback or any connections. I wasn't expecting anything in return because I figured he was busy, but it felt a little hurtful after him seeming so genuinely interested in helping me achieve my own dreams. After I helped him with his dream. But that's not always the case, and it's okay because I ended up making it with the help of other amazing friends in my life, which I'm very fortunate and grateful for. So at the end of the day, we all need to support one another as artists. We know how difficult it can be to make it in a world where many don't value the work that we do. We're already butting heads with studios and companies to be compensated fairly. So if we're hiring help from within our own community, we should fairly compensate them for their time and effort. I think this is especially important if you're hiring young artists, as you've shown them to be that they're worth a living. Hell, even thriving if you can afford it. It's disgustingly easy to get stuck in a desperate cycle where you take jobs that don't pay well enough because being poor is expensive. Now, we're going to go on to Ross's mental health retreat. That's going to be very brief because of how I feel about it. It sounds like he did go to some kind of cult shit. That is my own opinion. That is me tinfoil hatting, because when someone says retreat, a mental retreat, they're not saying they put themselves into a mental hospital, because that's not how that works. A retreat is usually spiritual, and that sounds like some cult shit to me. It sounds like he went to some spiritual advisor and now he's feeling better, or whatever happened probably wasn't good for him, in my opinion. And here I was talking so good about him, thinking that he needed some time away because of AI, and I can't even believe I said that. I wish I could delete that from my video. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the AI stuff. Now, on Twitter, somebody had already said that he wanted to pivot from art because he actually doesn't like it and he wants to move to music. Okay, Vato. Okay. So let's look at some of these images. So this is a pretty big image here. It's supposed to be for a character, but I can already tell, based off of what I'm seeing here, that this is a gray part that's missing, and so he has this little symbol on his arm. He probably put his character in there and then asked for more references of his character. Because you can ask for a character design template on Midjourney, which I'm sure that's what he's using. Because this doesn't really look like his style per se. And on top of that, right here, you can see that little tangent right there where it goes blue into the insignia? Like, why would Ross do that? If he drew this, why would he do that? Right? Why would he do that? And then you can also see here, see how they're white here? And they're different too. It doesn't, like, why would Ross draw something that looks like that? And then here he would draw them different. And then here he wouldn't draw them at all. They're just too different. Too different. Too many different things. And then there's another one. Now, the thing is I feel like you guys can go over to look at the other one, but you know what? I'm just going to put it up on screen just for posterity's sake. So let me get that, because I'll be honest with you, I don't know how I feel about this. Hold on. All right, so here is Alphonse. It's like a pre-version. Here's the finished piece. And this looks very typical of his own style. But what the person is saying is that when he was sent this other version right here, it looks kind of weird because the legs don't match. And why would the legs not match? So right here, he's talking about this area here and then this area over here. I don't know if you guys can't see it. Hold on a second. Let me put this display capture on. Right here and right here, these two knees here, he says that they don't look alike. And then there's these landscaping pictures, and some of them look like his and some of them don't look like his. And the ones that don't look like his are these ones right here. I kind of agree a little bit. But this is probably the most damning piece here. Also, do people still really hate AI? Why would you need to ask that if you weren't curious about using it yourself? Like, this was done in 6/3/2023. Like, that was like a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, you're telling me that, do people still hate AI? I do not believe that he doesn't know anything about the internet. Get out of here. I don't believe you. You're full of shit. You already know how people feel. Pretending to be ignorant is so stupid. He just wanted someone to support him in saying, yeah, people don't hate AI as much. Because you know what, Ross, how about this? AI bros like AI. How about this, Ross? AI bros like AI, and literally people who don't know shit about art like AI. So if you want to appeal to that audience, feel free to appeal to that other audience, because I'm going to be telling you right now, the people who supported you now, I will be surprised if you don't lose Patreon subscribers because of this. And look at this. This is 3/7/2024. Oh, okay. I will think. What's the vibe of digital art now these days? Short form content and AI hate? Like, what? Why do you have to bring that up? Is there a reason? Is it because maybe you're using AI? Because I don't think that you haven't been using the internet this whole time. You literally have a Discord server. Shut the fuck up. I don't believe you for a whole second that you don't know what the internet's like, unless you are so removed from your place of privilege that you don't even know what the internet is doing anymore. You have a Discord. No. You have a Discord. Shut the fuck up. Okay. So we're going to go into this plagiarism stuff real quick before I end the video. But I also wanted to say to Ross, yes, Ross, people still hate AI. If you knew your brand, you'd know better. What a damn fool you are. Just say that you use AI now and be done with it. Just make a new video. Say that you're still using Midjourney, because you probably are. It's clear that you're using it. And here's this quote. Oh no, ignore that. Like, brother in paint, you know you haven't been gone that long. Stop being damn dumb. I'm sick of influencers and people online acting like that the rest of us are fucking dumb and we can't pick up on shit. We can totally pick up on shit. Anyway, let's go over the plagiarism. Let's see what Finn. I'm gonna quote Finn. Like, I'm just gonna quote him 100%. His newest character that he's posting everywhere, Hollow, was a character that was made back on his Twitch when he was first streaming regularly. But there are aspects to this character that are present now that weren't present back then. Now, I know the first thought is that things change over time, but in Ross's newest video that he introduced this character, he tried to have a reason for every aspect of his design, but the eyes. He even gave a half-hearted reason about the impression or the scar on his face, saying that when you rest your hand on your face, it leaves a scar, and that glitch pattern is due to him having carpal tunnel. He has never mentioned to anyone prior to this or people close to him that he has carpal tunnel. So I'm not inclined to believe this excuse. That, and when I was at his place for AX, he showed me that he was playing around with his retro grainy bitmap texture because it looked cool. There was no real meaning behind this. Also because he asked for my opinion on the logo for his new book and which one looked better. It was all mostly the same, but the only difference was the random symbol he drew. I asked him what it meant, and he responded with, what do you mean? It just looks cool. But if this is supposed to be a book about you and your journey, it should have meant something, not just because it looks cool, which brings me back to the eyes. There's a mutual friend that all the effects, patterns, and themes behind Hollow that I believe Ross has taken from. Not just inspiration, but ripped from entirely, because in the video, he has given no meaning behind the eyes, but they are everywhere. This is not my story to tell, but this is something that might need to be brought to light. This character here, the main character of the book, was also called Kid, and Ross ended up changing his name because he was allegedly caught copying the name and the motifs of the character from our mutual friend, who had a younger version of himself with the demon character that had the eyes and the mouth motifs everywhere. Our mutual friend also had these themes of retro games and tech for over a decade now. These motifs weren't present in the original design, and now Ross is doubling down on including them everywhere he can without giving them any real meaning. He says he took inspiration from our friend, but the original idea was supposed to be about music and all the different aspects of yourself coming together like a symphony. It feels weird to switch from that to eyes, demons, retro tech, bitmap textures. He also included a little sprite companion for this kid, just like our mutual friend who has a sprite-like character with an eye. Ross's sprite-like character just has 2 eyes. There's such a fine line between taking an inspiration from your friends and taking everything they do, rebranding it, and calling it your own work. It seems that Ross has a problem coming up with ideas. Then he takes inspo from friends while being icky about it. Couldn't he just ask? It seems like he uses AI, uses a lot of photo bashing, and takes others' ideas. Is Ross creatively bankrupt right now? Because I can't think of any other reason why he would be doing literally all of this. And he says he doesn't like drawing too, so is it that he can't, I feel like he wants to give up on his art channel, but that's the only thing he has to his name, because I don't know, he could make so much more money doing other things. Like, it's clear that he doesn't want to be like Loish. He doesn't want to be the art god. He wants to do something else now, because he's had 10 years on YouTube or whatever the fuck it is. If he feels that way, why doesn't he just start another channel and then move in that direction? And why doesn't he try like getting on covers like Philip Sue does? Like, take special projects that make you passionate. I'm sure people would love to have him on as a special artist for a special project. It just seems like he's bankrupt of ideas. Because in the doc, Fen also says that Fen was asked to walk around and see what people's ideas were so he could use them if there was any good ones. I don't think it was meant maliciously, but you see what I mean? Like, he doesn't have any good ideas, and maybe he's like, you know, putting a suggestion out there to see if there's anyone that has any good ideas, and maybe he can make something of his own off of it. I mean, I get it. I just don't think that this is the way to go about it. Now, there's also this little thing, too, about racism, according to Fen. Ross called him a diversity hire, which is kind of shitty because it's a microaggression, but he also started lightening the skin tone of one of his characters and changed it from dark skin to tan, and then changed the afro to a different kind of hair. I mean, and this is all alleged, okay? Don't come at me. Don't take my video down. Don't be an asshole. But I'm inclined to believe Fen. But I think when it comes to microaggressions, it's up to him. It's up to him and his feelings. You know, I'm not black. I wasn't the one who was there. He seemed very offended. It is a microaggression. So I don't get offended by microaggressions, but some people do. It's really up to the person. It's not up to me to decide to be offended for him. But I think it's just something to point out. There's also other things that you can look at in the document to make your own choices and own thoughts, people who are listening, that might change your opinion. Now, this is what I think. Now that we know that he's been using AI, I think Ross secretly uses Midjourney, paints over it, and uses it as a stock resource. But why isn't he being honest about it? The reason why I think he's not being honest about it is because of his brand. And if your whole brand is that you're anti-AI, you can't use AI in your works. You can't. No matter how easy it seems, no matter how short it must, like, you built your brand. And if you're, like, honestly, if you built your brand off of artists, I mean, ErgoJosh was a little bit different. Like, okay, just hear me out. The difference between ErgoJosh and RossDraws is a very fine line. ErgoJosh wanted to show people how you could use it in your process, and he ended up kind of bullshitting his way around it. But I understand what he was trying to do, but he also was using AI in his process for a while now. He said 2 years, according to him, on his community post. RossDraws has been out of the scene for a while, like a year. And when he comes back and when he starts working, he's secretly using AI in all of his stuff. Didn't admit to it. The difference is that, like, Josh admitted to it and Ross didn't. He had to be exposed. Like, there's a fine line. Like, telling on yourself is different than someone else telling on you. Because if you're self-admitting, then you give people a chance to make up their own decision. But when you're lying to someone and they are exposed for it, now you have to hope that the people who liked you for what they thought you were doing will forgive you, right? So Like with ErgoJosh put out a very mature statement. He said that he'll still plan to use AI. Whether or not I agree with his use of AI, I appreciate he had a very mature video. He went over it. I did not unsubscribe from him. I watch his streams, and I still like ErgoJosh. Come at me if you're gonna come at me. But RossDraws, he was exposed for using AI and other bad practices. But it's up to us to decide how we move forward. And I don't believe, like, the thing is I don't want to say that Ross is a terrible person, but he's doing bad acts that make him look like a terrible person. And I think that there is some way to improve his social standing with artists, but he's going to have to decide if he wants to move forward with that, because I don't think anyone who is interested in buying that book should buy that book now, because that book is likely to have AI in it. And the thing is the way that his process works is that he makes he has a base, and then he compiles onto the base. But we know from his past experiences that he'll take a base of a person and then just paint over it directly. But this is different because now he can do that without having to worry about copyright. So maybe that's where his brain is thinking. But in doing that, he's kind of poisoned the water hole, as it were. This is, I guess, my final statement. I think he knows that he's going to have to be more strategic. I want you to come back and be you. Be the you who you wanted to be. And you need someone to smack the shit out of you with a chancla for thinking that you are Kim Jong-gi. You are not this generation's Kim Jong-gi. Kim Jong-gi is that. You could have been that if you hadn't had that controversy of using AI. I'm so sorry. And I feel like you need to stop that immediately. You need to stop that. He hasn't even been dead that long. You got to stop that. So what do you guys think? AI? No AI? How do you feel? Tell me your thoughts. I don't know if you guys loved Ross as much as I did, but I feel like I'm going to make another video about this. This is just the video going over it, but I think I'm going to make a video to Ross. But I think for me, it might be time to move on from Ross, at least for now, I guess. I'd appreciate if you would subscribe, watch, share this around for me. I hope I can keep helping you guys stay on top of things. Feel free to watch my video about the shitty Arcane trailer that the Arcane production called out. I guess I'll see you next time.